Istanbul. We have Manchester City versus Inter Milan. Manchester City are trying to be, they've done the domestic double. They're trying to become only the second English team to win the treble. Inter Milan, another great team with a great history in the European Cup Champions League, looking for their fourth overall title. So, what are your thoughts on this match?
Yeah, Paul, it's a big game. As you said, the last game in European club football. Probably, as you said, the Champions League final, European Cup, as it was known, is the biggest trophy. The one every big club wants to win. Our own clubs were lucky enough to win it twice. Nottingham Forest back in the late 70s and the early 80s, and Chelsea in recent times. So it's a massive occasion. It's on, of course, in Istanbul. They were meant to have it there 3 years ago, but because of COVID, it got pushed back. But they're having their day in the sun now on Saturday. It's absolutely massive, Paul, for Manchester City. I think the pressure's all on them. They're going for the domestic treble, as you said. They've got the domestic double done. They beat their great rivals, Manchester United, 2-1 in the FA Cup final on Saturday. And they're trying to equal that great Man United team of 90, 98, 99, captained by Roy Keane, that won the treble in Barcelona, I think it was, against Bayern Munich. And it's all in season. But I think if the City team that hammered Bayern Munich 3-0 at the Etihad and hammered Real Madrid in the semi-final 4-0, I think they'll win it convincingly. But City have a hoodoo in this competition. They've always seemed to mess it up when the going got tough. Now, we discussed a couple of weeks ago the semi-final. We said it's now or never for them. I think they must have heard us because they absolutely blitzed Real Madrid.
Surely not, no, surely not. Pep Guardiola is only listening to the soccer podcast show. Maybe he is.
I doubt it very much, but they were absolutely unreal in that semi-final second leg against Real Madrid. They absolutely tore Real Madrid, a great European club side. Was it 30? Was it 15, 40 or 50 times they won it in total, and they just put them to the sword like also ran 4-0, and could and should have been more. So Inter Milan, they've had a very good defensive record. I think since the knockout rounds they haven't conceded a goal. They definitely didn't concede against Benfica home and away.
No, can I just come in here for a second for cutting across you? Sorry for cutting across you. Going back to the 1960s, Inter Milan were always known as this. They introduced this great, it was a term called the catenaccio, where in Italian soccer, where you get the 1-0 lead and you'd see out the game. So Inter Milan didn't pick it off the ground. They're a well-known team, and they were one of the originals of this very tight Italian market.
Well, that's what it. I think I think they will do everything to frustrate Manchester City. They'll slow the game down. They'll definitely take yellow card, tackle. Like Kevin De Bruyne, I think will be a man that will come in for special treatment on Saturday. I'd be surprised if he doesn't, because he's the biggest creative force that Manchester City have. I think I remember in 2021 the final against Chelsea, a defender that's now at Real Madrid, Rudiger, you could say took him out and did a job on him. But you have to be ruthless in the game. If you think people might say it's against the spirit of the game, but if I was into Milan, I'd get a few tackles in straight away, and if you don't get a yellow card, then you've probably got a license to do it again. And that might be, that might sound a bit cruel.
It's a professional sport. It's a business. This is you go to win. Once you cross that white line, there's no such thing as being Mr. Nice Guy. You have to do what you have to do to win, and you push the boundaries of the line right to the limit.
I think they will, and I think that we saw with the Italians in Euro 2020 when they won it, they took a 1-0, they would take a 1-0 lead, and they will defend, make fouls when they have to. I think even in the final against England, if I'm not mistaken, it went to penalties. It was 1-1. But there was a time when Chiellini, miscontrolled the ball in the wing, and I think Saka, well, he wasn't in on goal, but he was a speed merchant. He was going to get away from Chiellini, and he pulled him back with the collar, pulled him to the ground, and took the yellow card, no problem. I think this game, City will have to be patient in this game, particularly if they don't get an early goal, because Inter Milan will take 0-0 half time, 0-0 full time, and extra time, because I think they're waiting for one chance, a smash and grab is what I think Inter Milan will try and get now on Saturday. They have a good defensive record, as I said, good goalkeeper. their attack is probably wouldn't be the best. They've got a 37-year-old Njeko, used to play for Manchester City about 10, 12 years ago.
No,
He was a
no age. Age is not the main thing. If he's good enough, he's young enough, or good enough, he's old enough. So I just wouldn't rule that out straight away. He mightn't last the
Oh
20,
yeah.
but if they get 3 quarters of the game out of him, you know.
Yeah, that's right. And Lukaku, who I know full well, been at Chelsea, he's still Chelsea's player, he's on loan into Milan. He can be good, or he can be absolutely dreadful. So it all depends on how he does. He probably won't even start the game, but he probably might come on as a sub. He has come on as a sub in the last couple of games in the Champions League. He definitely come on the second leg. He actually, I won't say it's Milan or putting him into Milan under much pressure. When he came on, he held the ball up and he created the goal for, I think, Martinez, and then it was 1-0, and Inter Milan ran out comfortable winners in the end. But I can see this game being very, very tight, particularly if City don't get an early goal. I think it's crucial. They can't afford to what Manchester City did on Saturday against United. City got a goal after 13 seconds, and for the best part of that first half, they could and should have probably made it 2 or 3-0. United got back into the game with a fortunate enough penalty, but I would fear for Inter Milan if they did what United did on Saturday, because I think City will be more ruthless. I think now on Saturday, because the Champions League final is the one they all want to win. It's a stick that has been beaten against Manchester City and Pep. People have said that Pep hasn't won the Champions League without Messi when he was clearly the best player in the world in 2009 and 2011. Manchester City have spent billions since they got
hundreds of millions.
Hundreds of millions, over $1 billion at least now, Paul.
Yeah.
And they've gotten to one Champions League final, numerous semi-finals and quarterfinals, but they've always fallen at the last hurdle. And the last hurdle is always the hardest one to clear. And I think Saturday night, I just think City will do it. It won't be as convincing as many people are saying. I'll give Inter Milan a right good chance. But like when I thought last week against United, when I said this will be a tight game and City will just edge it, I just have a feeling that City will just have enough. Well, just because quality-wise, I think player for player, they are much better. But just as a team game, it all depends on the flow. A refereeing decision, the VAR decision could coincidence as well. But I just think City will just about have enough. They'll more or less fall over the line rather than winners in style, like what some people are saying. But I just think City will just edge it, and they might just equal that treble winning side of 1999.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I suppose in fairness, if you look back to the history of the European Cup and the Champions League finals, most of the games are fairly tight. There's been a couple of occasions that were one-sided, maybe when the favourite team got in top earlier on and got the goals earlier on, but 9 times out of 10 they're going to be close and tight. We've seen in the past hot favourites have won the game and have won the finals, but also we've seen favourites getting beaten finals. So, and again, Inter Milan, you go back, as I mentioned earlier on, back in the 60s, then they went an awful long time, they couldn't win it. Now, obviously, it was hard to come out of Italy at the time with Juventus and AC Milan and Roma and Lazio and Napoli, but eventually, under Mourinho, they did win it. Now, when Mourinho left, Inter Milan went into kind of a downspin and they were kind of struggling for a few years and there was financial troubles and they were down mid-table, but they've come back again. They're buying a lot of good young players, a couple of experienced players, as you mentioned there, Dzeko and Lukaku and a few more of them, but Inter Milan again, they have the history, they have the tradition. I know I keep talking about it, but in a final, it does matter. A final is a psychological thing as well as a physical thing. So I expect this to be a close game. I actually hope it is the first goal that Inter Milan gets the goal, just to see what Manchester City can do under pressure. Because I just said, this is a real pressure game for Manchester City, as the kind of phrase, the gun is to the head. In a strange way, Noel, and I'd like your opinion on this, even though they won the domestic double, which is a great achievement, doesn't happen every day of the week or every year, but if they get beaten in this final, the season will actually be a negative for them. So what are your thoughts on that?
I agree with you. Just a few points there, Paul. You mentioned European Cup finals. The last 3 European Cup finals, Champions League finals, 2020, 21 and 22, have all been won by 1-0. Bayern Munich beat PSG 1-0. Chelsea beat Manchester City putting off 1-0. And last year's final against Real Madrid with Liverpool. Liverpool had all the chances. Liverpool were sort of going in as many people thought were favourites going into that game as well, because on form they probably had better form going into the final than Real Madrid. But Real Madrid, the know-how, the history, as you mentioned, they got the goal and they won 1-0. And that's why I said, like we said yourself, the first goal is key. If Inter Milan get it, it's game on. Because Inter Milan have a good defensive record. They will frustrate City no end, and they won't take any notion at all of being unsportsmanship or diving and getting onto the referee and all that stuff. That's all going to come into it now. There's a certain word, housery. I'm not going to say the first word of it, but that I can definitely see that happening. Saturday, Paul, if Inter Milan particularly get a goal in the first half, and Haaland's been quiet the last couple of games, Paul. He's had a fantastic season, but in the final against Manchester United, he hardly got a kick. He didn't get many chances. He sort of depends very much on service. He's a total goal scorer. He can hold up the ball a little bit, but he's not the most clinical person in terms of skill and the build up play. But once he gets into that 6 yard box, he's lethal. But so I'd be expecting a bit more from him, and particularly in a big game like this, because the last couple of games he hasn't been on form. But yeah, I just feel history. Everything's going to come into it, but I think history has to be made as well. And I just have a feeling that Inter Milan will give it a right good go, but quality-wise, they mightn't just have enough, and that's why I think City will just edge it. But like I said, they'll more or less fall over the line rather than winners in style.
Yeah, and of course we do know if it goes into second half or even goes into extra time, it isn't just your starting 11, your what we call it, your panel. And and going back in the past you might only have 1 or 2 subs, but you're still allowed 3 subs, we'll say, but you can have a panel of 5 or 6.
No, you're allowed 5.
The panel will say, but Manchester
you're allowed 5 now, Paul. You're actually allowed.
Sorry, you're allowed 5.
Now.
Correction, I'm wrong with that. Thanks for clarifying that.
It's like the GA now, Paul. You're allowed 5, and you're an extra time.
It just showed us back in the day you only had 1 sub, it said, into 3. Now it is 5. So that actually reinforces my point. Manchester City panel is packed with quality all the way down. So if they have to go into the bench for number 3, number 4, number 5, not alone just replace an injured player, but to make a switch or a change where players having a poor day. And I think that strength and depth is better than Inter Milan. I think Inter Milan can match him maybe for the first 11, but the strength and depth, so especially if it goes into the late in the second half, players are getting tired. I presume we'll side in Istanbul this time of the year, early June. It'll be fairly warm there, I'm only guessing. Yeah. Now, I know Inter Milan, that won't bother them, but at the same time, it will affect players, we'll say. So, what's your opinion on that? With the strength of depth of the panel, would that be, and with 5 subs now, I didn't realise that, with 5 subs, another ace card in the City pack?
Oh, definitely, Paul. I mean, City's squad, I mean, I think on the bench they had there the last couple of weeks, they've had Foden, Alvarez, who won a World Cup, don't forget, with Argentina, and Ake couldn't even get Laporte. I mean, these players would get into Milan's team, let's face it, because of the quality they have and the price tag they have as well. The City squad is serious. It's full of quality. It's been well built. We won't get into the whole issue about the charges and all that stuff. That's for another day. Then them things are all pending. But I just feel like you said that Manchester City squad is serious. I would love it at Chelsea, to be quite honest with you. But they have a world class player, and then they have a position. Maybe not goalkeeper. I'm not too sure on the sub goalkeeper, but when you look at Walker, Diaz, Laporte at the back, Ake, you got Gundogan, De Bruyne in midfield, you got Bernardo Silva, you got Haaland up front, Alvarez. I'm sure I mentioned it. I'm sure I'm forgetting a few others. Foden. It's Kevin De Bruyne. The quality is very, very good. They haven't won 3 Premier League titles in a row for nothing. They haven't done a domestic double again for nothing. So they are the better team. There's no doubt about it. They are the better team, and they have the better squad, and they have probably the better manager. But it doesn't always work out that way, Paul.
Yeah.
And I think